All right, we are now streaming live on YouTube.
Oh, you got that notice? I haven't gotten it
Yes, I got that notice.
yet. Okay, yeah, we are live.
Wonderful.
Welcome to webinar number 36, Content Unknown.
Yeah, you never know where we're going to go.
Just random. We just do random stuff. We're amazed that you guys follow us. And as always, we don't push for any likes or subscriptions because we don't care if you like us.
Yes, we know you're here for a reason.
All right.
You know what? Are there any questions? Anyone have any quick questions before we
Start
get?
us off with some questions.
Yes.
And then we
Nothing.
should probably talk about if there's any Marklin news that could be shared. Did we recently have an update? A
No,
minor update.
I don't. That was for the last webinar. That wasn't for this webinar. So
Time
no, I don't think
flies.
there's any updates. Although I do have to say that I did not really check for a CS2 update because I really don't think there is one. So
Yeah.
if anyone can prove me wrong that there is an update, let them speak now.
I just have proof that you're wrong. Not about anything in particular.
Just about everything.
Just you're wrong in general. There's something wrong with you every time I talk to you.
That's funny. Test one asks this question. Could anybody at Marklin fix the broken links on the website? Well, probably, but we have no control over that.
Was that a question? Oh, I didn't see that.
In the question and answer.
Broken links on the website. On Marklin's website? Out of our hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is there any specific link that you're referring to?
If you would like to put a list together of all the broken links on the website, send it to us. We'll forward it and see what happens.
See how well we get ignored.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So no news. I don't have any updates.
Yeah. Was it the fall new items that came out?
Oh, well, let's before we get, we do have a question. Dear gents, I'm trying to determine which decoder is in my loco 39904. Per parts list, it's listed as 3866798, but I can't find that part number.
Okay. Let me look on that real quick if you want to kind of go ahead. I'll
But
look on.
usually, I mean, it's hard for us to know what's sort of factory installed.
Well,
But
the
if you
thing
need a
is,
replacement, generally we usually go with the MSD3 in that case if it's sound.
that's
Right?
what I want to see. That's what's in there.
Yeah,
39909.
first we have to identify the locomotive. We can share that really quickly.
I'm sorry,
I'll pop it up.
39904.
Three,
I can't even read. Maybe I need my glasses.
might
Oh,
be-
that's the yeah. So what that is that's the dealer locomotive. What's wrong with your 39904?
Just so everybody knows, he has one of these. Hunt him down.
Um, see, and the part you're seeing on the part list for that's actually the profile number, I believe, for that locomotive. It's a standard Marklin MSD3 decoder. The profile is on the website. You can download it and
Looks like that.
install it.
Looks like that. These are you get your reference numbers, right?
Yeah. Well, he did. And
But
number
here's
two.
number 2. So just says decoder, and that's what he's referring to.
Yes, and I think that's their profile number for that locomotive, and they could just program a decoder and send it. Or you can do it yourself because you can download the sound project from the website and do it yourself.
Yeah, if you're not really sure what he means by profile, it's basically the profile is the locomotive type. So
But what I want to know is, well, with this special, there might be special sounds in it. announcing it's a dealer locomotive. It's probably what it
Mm.
does. So, I mean, you
Oh,
could conceivably take any of this diesel locomotive, this type, and put it in that locomotive. It just won't have these special announcements.
yeah.
So, but my question is, Mr. Tummy, which sounds weird to say, um, why do you need a new decoder? What happened that you would need a new decoder on this? And I guess we can wait. Oh, let's see. Nothing wrong, just want to know. Oh, yes, that's the decoder I used. Okay, yeah. So that's it. You can just program it yourself. A lot of these new locomotives, you can download the project, um, the sound decoder project, and install them in a decoder yourself. And we've covered that in several webinars and newsletters. So let's get rid of these questions. Done.
Answer those.
If
Do you
we
want
want
to
to go
answer
back to
the
the
question
top,
about the smoke units and fluid levels?
how do I determine if it's too much smoke, too little smoke, or a non-working unit? Well, what are you talking about, the dynamic smoke locomotives or the old tube type locomotives there, Sean? Oh,
He just answered the same. He asked the same question twice. So just
yeah, okay.
old, older locomotives.
Oh, older? Well, I don't know why I asked that question. But basically, both of them are out of experience. You just know how much to put in depending on the decoder type, the old type. If it doesn't smoke, then you need more fluid. If you put fluid in and it still doesn't smoke, it could be a bad smoke generator. If you take the smoke generator out, give it track power with some test leads, and don't hang on to it with your finger because it's a smoke generator. It gets hot. It gets really hot really quick. Um, if it gets hot with just straight track power, then it works and your problem is somewhere else.
That's true.
And if you get too much smoke fluid in there, it won't smoke. Or if you get a bubble, you have the bottle shape. I forget 7227 has a bottle shaped smoke generator, and that one is hard to fill.
Yeah, sometimes they give you the like how many milliliters to fill it in there. What is it, like 0.3 or something like that?
Yeah, it's something like that. But you're putting drops in, and the drop's bigger than the tube, and it's just
Yeah, it creates an air bubble.
yeah.
Another way you could probably test it, and I haven't really done this myself, is if you take your probe, you put one a multimeter probe, and you put one on the element in the middle and one on the barrel, and you probably get voltage readings that way if it's on. Um, but that's a little harder to do because you only have the tip of the wire to actually get the probe on it.
Yes, yes. It takes a little bit of practice, very
Yeah.
little.
Usually what? I would probably say two, three drops. More than that, maybe.
Yeah, probably three or four.
Yeah.
Here's a good one from anonymous attendee is on MFX locos. Do you need to use a programming track to adjust the volume? The answer to that is no. You don't need the programming track for pretty much anything on an MFX locomotive because that's the purpose of MFX. The controller only speaks to that locomotive when you're editing the functions, sound, acceleration, braking delay. The
Yeah, I
programming
can't.
track is comes from when there were only FX locomotives, and or at least that's when they started using a programming track with FX locomotives. You would need the FX locomotive on the programming track. And occasionally you do put a locomotive on a programming track. I forget what the other
I think you can program
agency.
MFX a little bit on the programming track.
Well, you
But
can, but you don't have to.
yeah, it might be related to. Do you recall? I can't remember if you needed it for CV values.
No,
No. Yeah, you can do everything on the main
no.
track. Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of
Just make sure
MFX.
it's not on a braking section where the brake on.
Yeah.
You get nothing out of that.
Okay.
Also, wait, can I keep alive a decoder on a mini Trix 616881?
Can I add a keep alive decode? Oh, I doubt it. Minitrix doesn't have room, and even the capacitors on there, the buffer capacitor, even
Oh,
the
you mean
capacitors on
oh
there
yeah,
are
the buffer
huge.
capacitors, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
It would probably be such a small capacitance value.
well, yeah. Would it really do any good?
Yeah.
Um, I say
I would say
try
worth a shot if you find something small enough with enough capacitance.
right, and we wouldn't even know where to begin on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Back to smoke fluid from RH Phil. On smoke fluid, you can buy on Amazon 2 milliliter syringes, needles. Yeah, I agree with that. And they're actually not sharp needles for like injection, but the reason I disagree with it is because usually with trains you have kids around, and I don't really think it's right to show them needles unless they're getting a shot, so to say. Even though I agree with that because it is the easiest way to put smoke fluid into the smoke generator. So, um, yeah, just don't use it around kids. How's that?
And then there's the question, should we leave smoke fluid in the new generators?
Yeah, you can, because inside the new dynamic smoke generators is a bunch of like fiberglass insulation, and that wicks up the fluid and it doesn't drip out. Unless you have a lot in there and you store the locomotive upside down, it would probably slowly seep out. But it's not like the older ones where they um, can just pour out. So
It's also a good safety precaution because, man, if you turn those things on accidentally and there's nothing in it,
yeah, you really don't want to run those dry because you will burn out your smoke generator. So you always have to have some in it. And that's why, when they come from the factory, you can run the smoke generator briefly because they test it. So there has to be some in it.
um, okay, we got a choice of either one of these questions here. How do you lower the sound on a DHG 700 MFX digital if it's a loc from a starter set? You need to be able to access it, any programming functions. Does the starter set have a mobile station?
Well, yeah, the controller, what controller are you using? And if it's MFX, it's still MFX. It doesn't matter whether it's a starter set or not.
Yeah,
Wait a minute. I'm trying to show you. I have my CS3 hooked up here.
yeah.
Um,
Meanwhile, while you look that up, I can read over this one answered
oops.
question.
Yeah.
I recently
Okay.
received a
So
new Kindle with place
edit, edit locos. Let me double check this locomotive is going to work. Yeah. Okay. So I can give a quick little demonstration here. Let me share the screen.
and he gave a box number 3D6700.
Okay. So in an MFX locomotive, let me turn this so I'm actually looking sort of at the camera. You'll see this, you have well, this is on a CS3, using a CS3 Plus. Wonderful. Okay, and you go to edit here and edit locomotives, which will give you the little X's. If you wanted to right now, you could delete any of these locomotives, which like here, I can delete that locomotive and it's gone, but that's not answering your question. Uh, okay,
Shut up.
so in this info screen, once you go into edit locos and you select the locomotive, it lands you in this info screen where you could change anything you want here, except the address and the functions, which I won't get into right now. But you want to go to the setup tab, and then right here is the volume. You can either click it forward if you just want a couple of clicks, or you can completely change it and put it to whatever you want. Now, The one thing I should mention, I was actually talking to somebody about this, and once you change this, you'll notice this lockup here. I believe it will do it here. If I change this to let's say 100, and then watch the lockup in the corner.
I think it did it before you actually pointed it out.
Did it? Okay.
Yeah.
It will change, which means it writes it to the decoder.
Did I
And
miss it again?
it doesn't want to do it right now because this is an older locomotive, so it may not be doing it for this one. But anyway,
I
that's
never
global.
noticed
That's
that.
um overall volume. So the thing is, if you just want to do a certain sound, that's a little bit trickier, and I don't really want to get into that right now because I haven't practiced it in a while. It's been a long time since I've done it. Um, so yeah, that's basically how you do it, and then click OK and you're off and running again. Now, what you want to do is what it's set at, they're usually set at 255 from the factory, but if it's too loud and you go down to 250, you're not going to notice a difference. A lot of times, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Um, you really have to take it down dramatically. Let's say from 255, I'll go down to like 200 or maybe 150 and see how that is. And then either go back up or down from there. You can't just set each locomotive at 175 and expect them all to be the same sounds. There's really no rhyme or reason that I've been able to figure out for each locomotive to have their volume besides 255 as maximum.
Yeah,
I've
usually I start pretty low myself
Yeah,
because
I've seen it down to where you get it down to below 100, and we're talking like 75, and there's no sound at all. It's like it just turns off.
it's a good
So
idea to just test it just to see what effect you're
yeah,
gonna get.
it'll take you a few tries.
Yeah. He
Um,
says he gave it a try and it didn't work that way. One thing to be aware of is I did have some instances where I tried to do it on a programming track and it didn't take that way. So you do definitely want to try it off the programming track and put it on the
hmm.
mains if that's the case.
What was, did we delete that? Let me see that. What was that item number again?
It's 36700. I can. And he says no decrease in volume at all. Yeah,
MFX. Yeah. Oh, it's a Blinky.
yep. I don't think I knew anybody would know that reference. This is Blinky. Uh,
That's the original Blinky. It's
that's the original Blinky.
not that we did it first or anything, but
It came to me just standard where the light was on and off. I put a decoder and I made the light switchable. So it's a cheap locomotive.
that's the
That's
that's the history behind Blinky, the
I
name
called
Blinky.
it Blinky because I didn't know where it came from. It's an out of box acquisition.
So I'm just looking through the manual of this.
Yeah, let me answer the swing question that's been kind of hanging here. I recently received a new, to me, a Kittle. He placed it on the layout, and while the CSC was basically trying to register it, the train was running around. Luckily, he didn't have anything in it.
Yeah.
That happens because your speed settings are set on the decoder. So as you bought it, I'm assuming used, they had left speed on it. So it was just basically running around until the CS3 could register and know what settings to send it. So, and that's when it stopped. Really nothing else you can do. I mean, it's just kind of, it just came that way with the decoder settings set and he didn't zero it out. So,
Right. And if it still wants to do that, if you look in the manual, you can probably enter it as a MM under the default address to turn the speed down. Depending on what controller you have, you might have to turn off the MFX protocol so it doesn't try and register it while you're doing that, because you'd have to do it real quick type thing. So that's one way you might be able to go around it. And back to Bert's question, I don't see that it doesn't on your locomotive with the volume. I don't see anywhere where it says you can't do that. It is a starter set locomotive. You should be able to turn it down. But I guess there is a possibility that you can't. It doesn't show anything in the manual about a manual pot to turn the volume down, but that's always something you could do, is put a pot on one of the wires for the speaker if you really want to. It could be a sign that the locomotive might have failed in that point. It's hard to say exactly.
I suppose you could try deleting it from the system and reloading it to see if
Yeah,
there was a corruption in the decoder data on
yeah,
the controller.
or possibly turning it to 0, put it down to 0 and see if that actually does turn the sound down. That's about all we can suggest right now without having it in hand and seeing the problem.
All right. Next question. What is the fault if a loco draws too much current, almost 0.5 amp?
I don't know what's running. Do you have smoke running? Do you what are you running with? We wouldn't be able to
How
know
would
what the
you
fault
even,
is anyway. It could
I
just
don't
be a
even know how you
decoder
would
problem.
measure that.
Yeah.
Essentially, electronics, the way I understand it works, it's only going to draw the current it needs. So it shouldn't be an issue overall. Why it's drawing too much current, I couldn't really determine that anyways. Because,
Yeah.
yeah. Who does the factory authorized mini Trix repair in the US?
Minitrix is hard to say. I don't know anyone that really does it for other than warranty work. Except maybe I think Andrew would, wouldn't he? AC Euro. Andrew and
AC
Peter,
Eurotrains?
ACEurotrains.com. You can give them a shout out and see if they'll take it in as a repair.
You could probably send in an email, and if we have a list of dealers that do that, we can probably get that responded to you.
I think on the website it shows US dealers and what they deal in, so it doesn't. And there is a list of authorized repair also on the website, which would, I think it does say what they repair.
Yeah, I don't know where that
So
list would be. Okay, well, so much for questions up to this point.
up to this point.
21 questions in our first half hour.
Yeah, so a question a person.
That's the personality. I should probably check the webinar. Okay, so what do we have on topic today?
Well, on the newsletter, I guess I can start sharing it. Sounds like we're getting into this.
Sure.
Sure, you sound excited. It
Oh, motors and decoders.
yeah, well, decoders. Because I realized we had done webinars, newsletters about decoders, or I'm sorry, motors and how to program decoders and all that, but we didn't actually do any on what decoders are available.
Oh.
So that was kind of neat. Yeah, neat topic. So I started this as basically Marklin HO because that's the most popular. And then I figured I'd start with the basic decoder, which would be 60760. And Curtis and I have used these for years in little shunting locomotives. And it's a nice, like I call entry level decoder because it is simple to wire up. It comes with the motor kit. It's a really good starter if you got a little locomotive to get your feet wet to install into a locomotive, especially if it takes this motor type, which the motor type is 60941, and it comes with it. So it's a good value all in all to make a simple locomotive digital. I also referenced that I had mentioned in a previous newsletter that there's an F3 function. This normally comes with just one light function. I'm sorry, one auxiliary function. It comes with both front and rear lights and one auxiliary function. And there is actually one extra function that is not wired, and it's for F3. You would have to wire it, solder a wire to it, to the pad.
Yeah,
And
that was something I found.
yeah, you did. You actually found that. And then Tom, you had told Tom, he said, yeah, I knew that.
Tom verified it for us. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tom
Tom
Catherall,
verified
our
it for us.
predecessor. Yeah.
I was impressed until Tom knew about it and didn't tell anybody.
Maybe it's because we're not supposed to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
Because we don't know
Um,
what you knuckleheads are going to do with it.
yeah. So the next level decoder would be the 60972, 82, and 83. And I can get to Mike's question here. Um, the 60972, these are Marklin locomotive decoders. And that's where in the name MLD /3. This is Marklin locomotive decoder version 3, if you want to call it that, decoders. So, or third generation or whatever they get the 3 for. These are all the same decoders. It's just that some are wired and some, well, two are wired, one is a 21 pin. And I believe this is the one where the wired version um, comes with an 8-pin plug to plug into an 8-pin socket, or a 8-pin plug wired to it. I forget which one, if this is it or the sound decoder. But in the catalog, this
Well,
says,
just sorry to interrupt you really, just because you mentioned the sound decoder, that's the distinction between an MLD and an MSD.
yes, I was going to get to that in the next
Okay.
one, but that's okay. In the catalog, this says this is a sound decoder, but it is not. It's a typo that has never been corrected, and it only says it in the title. It doesn't say it in the description. I didn't actually crack one of these open to verify that, because then we wouldn't be able to sell it here at the warehouse. So um, I can pretty much say this is not a sound decoder. And again, if anybody wants to prove me wrong, feel free on that if you actually happen to have one. Now, next in line, I guess, would be the 60906 decoder. Well, yeah, no, I'll cover the question later. The 60906 decoder is made for locomotives that have a 3-pole motor, 3-pole AC motor. And that's what this is for. It will run Marklin Motorola, FX, MFX, and DCC. So this is kind of a versatile decoder. You can throw it in a locomotive if you don't want to change the motor. And that's only if it's a 3-pole motor. Now, if it's a CAN motor, you would go back to either the MLD3 or the MSD3 decoders. So this is only if you're gonna be using the large flat commutator, small flat commutator, or the high efficiency, 3500 series locomotive if you wanted. So this is for analog 3-pole motors. There's also the barrel type, which is a high efficiency 3-pole motor, if you can call it that, commutator. Next would be the 60975, 7677, 60985, 86, and 87. These are MSD3 decoders, the Marklin Sound Decoder 3. This is the same basically decoders as the non-sound, but this one has sound. And you cannot program sound in the non-sound, but this would it comes the same way. You can have a 21 pin or a wired version, and this is the one that comes with wired interface if you want, or a non-wired 8-pin interface. So it comes either way. All of these are basically the same decoders. 60975, 7677, 8586, and 87. They are the same decoder. Even though one is for steam, one is for diesel, one is for electric, they already have those default sounds in them, but they can be programmed with any sound you want in the library. If, for instance, if you have the steam locomotive 60975, you can program it with a diesel or electric locomotive. You can program it with any of them with any sound profile. They come with these sounds already installed as a default, so you don't have to. You can actually just put it in your locomotive, install it, and start running with sound. That's why they have the 3 different ones. So normally what I do is I do an install for somebody, and I will order the 60977, the 21 pin, and it's the electric sound, where that one is, I am assuming, the least popular because it's an electric sound decoder. So I pretty much am sure there's going to be some in stock because it is the least desirable in my opinion, and I can always get as many as I want. So that's why I choose those, and I just program whatever sound I want into them. Next on the list, I have the 609, 78, and 79 decoders. Now, these were for specifically the Hercules and the Trax and the startup line from about, 8 to 10 years ago. Where they came digital, I don't believe they came MFX, and they did not have sound. I think later there were some versions with sound and all that, but if you have the startup, or it might even be back then the hobby line locomotives, these were a direct replacement for those. They are very easy to install. The 21 pin, I think you would literally just replace the decoder, pull the old one out off the 21 pin board, and put the new one in. And that would be for the Trax locomotives. And then for the Hercules locomotive, it actually has the square decoder in the picture, where the decoder sits right on top of the motor, the CAN motor, and you solder the tabs. You unsolder the tabs from the old decoder, and you solder this one in right where it is, and add the speakers wires to the speaker and install it in the locomotive, and you're off and running with the correct sound profiles. You don't have to change the sounds. And on these, I have not had the experience to be able to try and reprogram these. I don't know if they will reprogram. And I actually see, it looks like I might have made a mistake in this in my description, because I'm looking at the picture and it looks like the picture shows 2 different circuit boards. One looks like the mounting board, and one looks like the decoder, where I didn't notice that before. So I believe that both of these locomotives will take the same circuit board, and it comes with the circuit board, the 21 pin decoder, and the speaker. So already my article is wrong. So I noticed that before anyone can point out my mistake. Next would be for Trix, the Trix line. This would be the Trix HO, I believe. This is the retrofit for the Plux 22 interface in a Trix locomotive. And these would be programmable also, as I believe they are a MSD3 decoder. Let's see, let me double check that. It could be, yeah, MSD3 decoder. Now, the interesting thing about this is there's no interface to program this decoder, so this decoder would have to be programmed on the track by the CS3, unless you have the decoder testing circuit board. Then you could program it with the decoder stick that comes in the 60970 programming kit. After that, we have a Mini Trix N gauge, and it's the 66857 is the old DCC/Selectrix protocols. This is a direct replacement if you have a controller that runs Selectrix, and it would be basically a plug and play for that locomotive. You would end up programming it for a unique address. Once you get it in your locomotive, you'd program it with your controller, and off you go. Now there's an MFX version of this coming out soon. It's supposed to be out this month. I'm not sure exactly if it's going to be out or not. I just saw in the catalog that it was going to be out in October, scheduled release date. Whether it's late or not, I don't know. So it's going to be an MFX version with the MTC 14 interface. And so that would be a direct MFX replacement for any of your N gauge locomotives that have the MTC 14 pin interface. And then lastly is the LGB 55029, which will work in Marklin 1 gauge also. This is a MSD3 decoder. It is full sounds. It comes with the speaker. It is programmable with whatever profile you want in the on the Marklin website for the LGB locomotives. You basically solder your leads to the decoder mounting board and plug in the decoder, and off you go. This does have its own decoder mounting board adapter to program it, or you can program it on the Central Station 3 or the decoder test board. Again, it's programmable with whatever you want. And to make it easier for the LGB locomotives with a 10-pin interface, there is an adapter board for that to make an easy install. And this decoder is fairly large, so it doesn't fit in the small locomotives like the Steins or a Chloe or the field locomotive. That's basically there's no decoder to fit in those right
I've had to
now.
cram one into the cab, but
You can, but then you would see it.
yeah, and I mentioned that to the person I did it for, and it was not an issue for him.
Yeah. So it is possible, but it's not possible to hide it where you can't see it. So
It barely hidden. It was just kind of tucked in under the side panel of the one I did.
okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
a little side fitting. I did have to cut away a little bit of the cover just to
Mhm.
get it to fit in there.
I've put them in 1 gauge locomotives before, and they fit really nice in a T3.
Okay, so was that in the
Well, there's a
MFX
question from
60972? Did you answer that question?
No, I did not. I was going to and then forgot during it, and I'll get it now. In the MFX 60972 decoder motor selection, which motor type should I choose? Any of the 609, let's see, 41, 43, or 44 kits, you would choose the C90 motor selection is what I use. Basically, I think they will all work. I think the factory told us that at one point, but I usually set it for the C90 because the C90 was the 5-pole, first 5-pole decoder, or decoder for a 5-pole motor, I believe. Can Delta locomotives be updated to sound and newer motors? Yes, they can, as long as there is a 5-pole or a 3-pole motor in it, the standard Marklin motor. If there's a
Yeah,
CAN motor in
obviously
it,
you'd want to match your motor types, and there's
yeah.
an article that Rick wrote about that, so you can figure that motor
Yeah, I
type.
did an article about that, and it's really handy to reference that. If it's got a CAN motor, you just leave that CAN motor in, and yes, they can be updated to MFX with sound.
Mr.
Decoder
Dirty Telex.
609757677. There's auxiliary 3 for telex couplers. Is that auxiliary for one or both couplers? Okay, so when I do a telex locomotive, I usually do an auxiliary number 1, 2, 3, or 4 to be each telex. I separate them out so you can have a front and rear telex individual. So yes, you can have up to 4 physical functions. So you can use telex separately on 2 different functions.
Should an MFX decoder keep the same speed when the loco goes uphill or downhill? And if this does not happen, where should I look?
It is going to slow down a little bit. The more resistance a motor has, the more power the decoder gives it, but it's only going to go so much, you know. It is
Well,
supposed to be fairly steady.
yeah, I mean, the way you look at it is it's not like the old analog where, you know, whether or not there's voltage drain or not. The motor speed is a constant pulse. So what actually will cause the locomotive to slow down is going to be drag, how
Yeah.
many cars you got behind it. But ideally, or actually, it's going to be essentially keeping the same motor pulses, motor speed pulses, kind of like a strobe light.
Well, if you have a locomotive running, as we do work on them frequently, you can I have it upside down and the locomotive's running and you put some resistance on the wheels, it'll slow down, but as soon as you let go of it, it speeds up and then slows back down to its original speed. So it kind of has a steady speed. It tries to, but there's
Yeah, I
only so
mean,
much it can do.
it's all physical.
Yeah,
Basically, electrical impulses that govern the motor aren't changing at all.
yeah,
So it should maintain the same speed. So
roughly.
we do have one comment that I had answered in text, and this was from a Peter Jonassen in Denmark. He is doing a He's teaching a Marklin digital. He's got 11 participants. It's 2 evenings, and um, that's all the details I have on that. You can probably text him directly if you want. Um, it's probably in our list here somewhere, our chat list. But unless he's test one, because I don't see his name in here.
Did test
This
one go
is
away? Oh, there he is.
PJ. Look for PJ. Did he leave? He might have left. Looks like he might have left our the webinar. So, okay, a hit and run advertisement.
There you go.
Right, cool. So I guess it's now to me.
Yeah. You had an interesting article.
Yeah, in this month's article, we had actually received a few questions regarding the loop macro, which I think I superficially covered a while back. Don't even remember. And so we're going to go in depth with some of the loop macros. So,
Last time, because it was new to us, we didn't know anything about it, and you had played with it, and you couldn't find a way to stop it once it started, unless you physically started it.
yeah, well, it's funny when I was writing the article, I was even having trouble sort of um, essentially what grew was we realized uh, more functionality regarding what they call control contacts. And control contacts are non-track related controls. I think you came across them by accident too at one point, and
Yeah.
it worked very well for you. Um, and we'll get to showing you what that's all about. But as I was sort of going through the article, I was trying to start a loop macro using the control contact by itself, and it would not work. It had to use a track trigger to get the loop to start unless you started it manually.
Really?
So yeah, so we'll go through that as I share my screen. We're going here. Okay. So essentially, I am not going to I'm not really going to create any sort of quote usable loops. That's kind of up to you because there are just way too many variables that you guys can do. But hopefully, this will give you enough of, sort of what do I call it? Influence that you can think of creative ways to do this yourself. So essentially, what I have for elements is I have 4 lights that I set up as I did in the article, and I can probably zoom into that screen here. Whoops, did I just make that a little larger for you guys? Let's get rid of that. We don't need to actually track. And so let's kind of show you what is involved when you're setting up on a loop. So first of all, it's an event. And you have two ways that you can add a loop. You can add just a macro directly. And we'll add a macro loop. And this generates the loop itself. This is a loop container. And let's close. I'm going to get rid of that. The other way you can do it is you can just kind of add an event, and from within the event, and this is the event itself down here, I can add a subsequent loop macro. And what it does is it places the macro in this event and it generates a subsequent loop here. The distinction is you can't really just do a loop by itself. You need to actually put it within an event. So this kind of saves you the one single step. But to access the loop, this is just the event itself, and you can see it's starting the loop. But to do anything with the loop, you need to actually open up the loop window, and you can see this is loop 1 now. So let me just kind of close this out as I edit this so we can have a screen that we actually see what we're doing. So the way I'm going to do this, if you want to create a streaming cycle of events, then you just really need to just drag your elements in here. And what I will do here is as I edit each element, I'm going to give it a 1 second delay so you can actually see what it's doing. I can do a half second if you want, but 1 second's kind of clean. You do want to set the aspect you want to do. So we're going to actually turn the lights on. And these are basically, as you look at these steps here, for these who are not familiar with events, these are the actions that are going to take within the loop itself. So let me just kind of configure all these. 1 second. Live action processing here. Okay, also 1 second. And this one here, I didn't set a time. So this is your time. Now, whoops, 11 seconds would be way too long to wait. So let's go 1. Now, this turns all your lights on in a cycle, and that's all the loop's going to do. Once they're on, they're on. You can't turn them. You're not going to see anything. So you got to remember to actually reset or turn them off. So, and this is going green because that's the way I dragged it in. So let's turn that off. And we'll also do 1 second delay. I can type. 1. Oops. 1. This one here. And this one here. 1. Okay. So this is basically our loop. I'll close this down, and nothing will really happen because we're in edit mode. So to start the loop, we actually have some functions, and let's actually change this so it's back to an aspect of this. You could have a play button here to begin the loop function. And you can see down below as they go on 1 second delay, they are cycling on and off. Okay,
Nice,
go ahead.
That's a nice chase effect if you get it down to, can you get it down to like quarter second?
Oh yeah, you
that
can
low?
no, you can add, so a good question, we can do that. We're gonna edit the event. We can actually go open the loop. And when you look at your delay seconds, this unit, you can do milliseconds.
Right, milliseconds, yeah.
So you can go really quick, or you can do, if you're a really patient person, you can go by minutes.
Well, I could see using this as chase lights in a sign, a marquee sign or something,
Yeah, exactly. You can wire these things up to an M84 or something and do whatever you want. Now, so the thing is, once it's looping, as you can see, I'm in edit mode, so it actually stopped the loop. Okay, once you get out of edit mode, you can start it again, and this will continue to run, and there's really no way to stop it, right? You just can't figure out a way. There's nothing you can do. Hitting pause will pause it. Actually, no, I hit the pause up here, and it's still running. So what do? We need to actually use a control contact, which is why I have one here. And so let's go into my articles here. And we're going to edit the article list. You can see what it is. Now we have, let's go here because we're actually looking at controlling contacts. Link S88 or GFP31 is basically anything that you attach to an S88. Now those are track-driven triggers. That means when your train goes over these things like a read contact or a circuit track, that's what you're going to use. A controlling contact actually has no track affiliation. Even though you have a listing here for module and contact number, it really doesn't matter. These are just going to be control contact triggers. So like if I generate new controlling contact, it looks almost like a contact track. It uses the same icons, uses the same setup, but these are all displayed under controlling contacts. I can switch those out to a track related contact using this lower feature, but this is kind of goes, it may be confusing to you. The other way to do it, like if you actually set it up under like a link S88 here, you can actually switch it over to a controlling contact by going down to the lower right here where it says switch to, and then now it'll be a controlling contact. That's because I don't have an S88 connected to this, and it would basically switch this over to the control. And notice as I click controlling contact, it drops off the module. Okay, so it gets a little confusing. This upper left just basically lists what's under that heading. This will switch it from one to the next. So that's how a controlling contact is generated, and I'll show you how we do this. We use this in an event. Okay, that warning is just telling me that my L88 is not connected correctly, which for demo purposes, yeah, it's not. So let's go under edit events. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take my control contact here, and I'm going to drag it into, and I'll just put it anywhere here. Now notice how it's got a question mark. So what the system is doing is, as it's going step by step, and that's what this black line or red line will do as it's running, it's just going step by step every second of the way. And when it runs across this, it's going to ask, is this control contact showing yellow or on? And if it is, then it will proceed to the next step. And this is actually how we interrupt the loop. Because if it's not matching, like gray and yellow, then it will stop. So, and I will demonstrate that here. So I'll go over here and I'll start the loop. And obviously, because they're already on, let me restart it here. Oh, I'm in edit mode, so that's what keeps it from running. So let it get a chance so you can see it cycling through. There you go. Okay, and it's reading the control contact is yellow, so it's constantly going to go through. Now, let it go past off, and I'll turn this on. Okay, and notice if I open this up, you can see, drag this up here so you can see that L3 went on, and then it read the condition, and the condition didn't match, so then it stopped at that point. So this is always going to be the case. It's only going to stop after it reads its conditions. So you might, if your circuit is long and you don't want it to just kind of go on forever until it reaches that point, the remedy is you have to actually add this contact to every point where you want it to stop. Like you can group it. Let's see, let's get rid of it here. Like say I want it to stop at either an on all, and to move it, you just kind of have to hold it down by the title bar.
You have to move that L3 over. There you go.
Yeah, you got to move the first one. So you can actually have it stop or stop where all the lights are on or off, or if you want more control, you can certainly drag more into each step of the game. Okay. So this is kind of how you stop a loop. Now, just for ideas on what you can do with it, um, and we should kind of backtrack a little bit. How can we actually start the loop? This was manual mode. If you click on this, and you can actually use a different trigger, and these triggers can be like if you every time you start the CS3 or you let track power from the stop bar, if you set the CS3 to go, then it'll start the loop automatically. The top one is if you're going to start it when you actually give power to your CS3, the system start. It's going to constantly run. This halt, I'm assuming it's like if you put the CS3 stop bar light on, then it stops the CS3 and then it begins the loop. Although I don't really know how that would work in the end run because it's going to run when you're not running trains. So,
Well,
uh,
it wouldn't even run because it wouldn't have track power.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
So
if you
yeah, I
don't
don't really
drive
know what
power,
that
what's the
one
point
means.
of starting a loop then? Well, there may be an instance where you want to. Let's not discount that. You
Right.
may come across it where I want the lights on if the system's off.
And it might just stop the loop right there or restart it at the beginning when you
Yeah,
hit stop.
yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah, and you can also do the loop model time. I'm assuming is that you have a simulated clock in your CS3, or maybe it's just generated if you set the clock time correctly, where it goes on whenever at a certain time. So you do have a little bit of flexibility where you're actually using the CS3 to start it. There is one extra approach that you can do, and that's actually if you have on track conditions that you want to start the loop, in which case you would actually have a track trigger, and that's one associated with a contact track or an actual S88, right? And so you can have a train hit that trigger, and you can basically drag. Let's say if this was the track trigger, or over here I have a track trigger, drag that in there, and you see you can do it when a locomotive either enters an entry point trigger or it enters in a contact track, or you can actually do it the opposite. So like you change the position and you can see how the icon change where your train exits the trigger. It's basically, like after block. So you can actually have this start the contact track, start the loop. And remember your control contact needs to be set so that it begins the loop. Because if I use this trigger here, so I'll turn the trigger off and I'll turn this off. The moment my train hits this track trigger, and again, let me stop the edit mode. If I hit this, it's going to try to start the loop, but the control contact is actually preventing it from doing anything.
Mhm.
So what you want to do is you want to make sure you set your control on, and then it would normally loop if I have this correctly set. So again, I don't really have a track trigger, but this is some of the testing I went through.
Right. So where my mind goes is my old grade crossing. I don't need a
Yes,
flasher unit for the lights. I can have the CS3 through an M84 make the lights flash
yes.
through that.
Yeah, you can have it. You can have it. Your lights flash to the loop.
Yeah.
Obviously, looping is interesting because where would you actually use a loop for like track related things like turnouts and
Well, yeah.
it could be dangerous.
It seems like it's strictly for the easiest analogy would be for lighting.
Yeah, street lights and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You want to have a time cycle.
Warning barricades.
Yeah. But there is an interesting thing that we should generate. Now, if we look at the loops themselves, right? Your timing in any event is strictly guided by by the event here. Like if you got a 1 second delay, this delay, how it works is like even after a contact, you can have a delay after testing something, which is kind of weird, but you may find a use for it. The delay point is always after this action is set. So it turns on the light, then you've got your 1 second or your 3 second delay before it goes to the next block. Okay. Now, let's say you do have something else that you want to loop where it's actually a series of events, like I said, like if you had an event where you wanted to, set some track stuff. And I'll show you kind of what happens. And this is what we call nesting an event, okay? So in this case, I've generated a new event that's FS2, and I will actually add some random stuff in here, which probably wouldn't make any legal sense, but we'll add a switch, a turnout, right? And a light. And let's actually add it again so that we actually have a switching state so that we can actually see what's going on. And we'll turn the light off. So this is off. This will probably be really quick because I'm not going to have, let's actually add a 1 second delay after this. And we'll add a 1 second delay after that. So we can actually see change, right? So this is an event, and this is basically manual mode. We're not using any exterior triggers, although you can. And then what we'll do is we'll go back to our looping event. Oops, this one here is what I want. Let's get rid of some of these controls. And let me actually get rid of the track trigger so I can set this manually. You can see what's going on here. And we'll go back to the loop. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this, let's put it right here in the middle. This is a nested event. And what's going to go on is you have to be aware of timing, because this nested event has no delay to it. And it's going to run this event independently, because as it goes through this step, remember there's a 1 second delay here, it's going to trigger this event and it should go right to this next event for another 1 second delay. Whereas this thing already inherently had a 2 second delay because I put a delay at this point for 1 second and a delay at this point for 1 second. So your timing is going to have a weird overlap. You won't actually see it. So before I actually begin this, and doing this on the fly, you never know if I'm going to fail or not, right? But which is
Here's
always
hoping.
embarrassing. Here's hoping. But you admitted to a mistake, so I can do so too. So that was I think it was that one and this signal light and this light here. Okay, so we're going to just add this to the layout. And so that actually you can actually see what's going here. So I got my control contact on. So hopefully I don't have any interruptions. Let's start remember this is the trigger for the loop. So we're going to start that up. And you can see it's beginning. Now you see now it's changing. And you can't really tell because every time it reaches to this point is where this gets triggered and it's looping in its own cycle. Yeah. So again, timing is critical. You got to know if this sub event down here is going to run for, let's say, 5 seconds, but you don't want it to happen here. What you really need to do is you need to say, well, how long is this overall nested loop going to run for? It's a 2 second delay, but I don't want it to
that nested loop has to be a shorter time than the loop itself.
Yeah, it depends on where you want it. Like here for a second, remember, say I've got that nested loop, right? It's going to be 2 seconds long. Maybe I want it to finish before I go to the next step. Well, you can go into this nested loop and make sure there's a 2 second delay, right? Let's actually give it a 4 second delay. right? So that way it's going to go through the process. It's going to finish that one event before it loops to the next step. So hopefully you guys are following what I'm saying. So let's reset this and we'll start the loop. Actually, no, let's do it. See, once it's already going, I can't stop it, right? Because it's already in motion.
Caught in your own
So,
trap.
yeah. So it's going to go off. And now I should have this. And then it's going to run this entire loop cycle before it retriggers L5. Right? Because this is a 2 second cycle.
So it does that whole nested event within that space that it's planted.
Yeah. So this is why you have to kind of really be aware of your timing when you're nesting
Okay. Okay.
events.
I thought it would continue on its 1 second delay and have basically two timers going, so to say.
Yeah, I mean, this is because nested events, it has its separate timing. You just
Well,
kind of
right. What it does, instead of doing the nested event and continue on in its loop, it does the nested events, each sequence in it, and then continues its loop, is what you're saying.
I just kind of got lost in your explanation.
That's
But
right.
yeah, I believe you got it
I
right.
kind of got lost explaining it too.
Yeah,
So.
this is why, it's just like, yeah, test this stuff out, guys, because, you can really get caught up in this whole timing issue. But it's kind of cool that you can actually nest an event within a loop. And
Yeah,
it's nice that it goes through this complete cycle before it re-triggers this L5.
right. That's what
Right?
I was
And
saying.
it looked like the timing wasn't quite correct. So there's a little bit of playing on it, right? And the only way to kind of check it is you got to go edit your events because this has its own delay time, right?
Yeah.
And here's why it didn't work because I actually unchecked the delay box. So in 4 seconds wasn't enough. So
Well,
let's actually kind of go back. So let's run that and see what happens because it looked like what happened was it was going right after this nested event went,
right. And so
but it didn't
now,
seem to be longer. But now let's see what happens, right? So let's definitely reset this off so we can see where it begins. And this little light kind of is really cool because you got four aspects, but it's kind of figuring that out. So here you go, one, two, on off there, and see now it's a 5 second delay before L5 comes on,
yeah.
right?
Well, plus the time it takes to do its event.
Yeah,
So it does the nested event and then it continues on in the loop rather than doing the nested event while it's in the loop.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's really kind of a cool feature to do once you figure it. I mean, it's really all about using these control contacts, but it does definitely stop because the moment I click this, it will halt the process when it gets back to wherever
Right.
this control contact is.
Right. That would be a fun little for accessories on a layout. That would be a fun little, thing to do.
Yeah. So yeah, so there's basically most of what the article covers. We can answer some questions. Now is there a book for event programming? I haven't seen one yet. I think probably the difficulty is because of the variables. I mean, who knows what you want to event programming? Essentially, I've been talking about this for years, starting from the CS2. So if you have access to the newsletters, that will actually do a lot to it, and you should because you're here at the webinar. You're part of the digital club. Um, we do have at the beginning of the year an index of articles. You can definitely request that if you need to from us, and we'll get that out to you.
Well,
Um,
there's also the book, the big manual, so to say, that you buy for the CS3. There's a third version on its way in English. We don't have it yet, but it's definitely on its way. I mean, running, trains digitally with the Central Station 3. They've done
yeah, I
volume
think I'm not
version
really
1 and
too
version
sure.
2.
They cover the basics, right? They don't go into
Yeah,
detail.
they cover the basics, and it'll probably have the loop macro. I think it's just they just update it with the updates in the central station,
Okay.
but they don't print a new book every time there's an update for a central station.
Yeah. It can use this for train control and routes. You can if you can figure out a logical way to do loops where it's not going to make uh, give you more hassles. Like, train collisions are a weird thing, right? Especially if you've got them going through loops. And like I said, we're giving you basically the inspiration for you guys to sort of experiment and play with it. But yeah, you can definitely do this for train control and routes. Just bear in mind that the one thing that most people have a misconception about is if you're trying to control a specific locomotive at a specific juncture of the layout, that can only be done if we can successfully track the position of a locomotive itself. Because in the generic sense, if you program something for train A to activate at a certain point and train B hits that track trigger, it's just going to program train A to do whatever you want it to do, which in a nightmare scenario is if you're trying to stop a train at a specific location. So, but definitely a cool feature. It was kind of fun to do that article, especially kind of the discovery of nesting events and doing all that kind of stuff. But again, watch your timing. Timing events can be a nightmare. So, okay. Do we have any other questions regarding that? I think we've answered everything. Yes. Did we miss anything? Uh, the local icon will allow you to stop an event. The
Okay.
local icon will allow you to stop an event. How so? I'm not really too sure how you're. Are we talking about this icon up here? Oh, well, I should show the screen. Play this. Unless you're talking about a control icon, which is the one I see up here. Let's see, control, start the
Edit.
event. So which loco icon are we referring to?
Up there at the top for control.
This one?
Yeah. That will block events, terminate events.
Oh, there you go. Thank you for that. So yeah, if you have this window open, you can terminate events. But that will terminate all events or block events. So yeah, release events. I think you'd have, this is a global control, I'm assuming, so you got to
Yes.
be aware of what you're doing that for.
Yeah, that's all events.
Yeah. But it's a good way to stop. Thank you for that. Yeah. So, but if you want to do on track stopping, the thing is, I have this control contact. I can actually have an event triggered by something on track, right? And if I go into edit mode here, rather than being a condition, I can make it an action. And I can actually have it stop the control. So for instance, now that I have this running, right? Is my loop still running? Let me start the loop because we were in edit mode. So my event is running, right?
Yes.
And this is the new action that I created let's say it's triggered by a track event. Well, this will actually turn off my control contact. And then you can actually stop the event using track events rather than this button here.
Once it
So
gets back to the spot where you said it told it to
yeah, it
stop.
goes back to where I have that control point, which was either when all the lights are on or off, right? So that kills the control. So that's how you can use track trigger to control your control contacts.
Yeah.
So it can be a quagmire of information
Yeah.
because now you've got control contacts, track triggers, loops, all that stuff. So trying to keep straight of that, take it slow. Don't rush the whole thing. Sometimes I would even dare say, don't build everything all at once in your theoretically and then test it. Maybe go a little bit at a time just to make sure each step of the way is working as you want it to. So, but that good call on that button up there, the control button. I never really used that. So
Yeah. Um, yeah.
cool.
Fun accessory to play with. Yep.
Yeah, the macros were really kind of a blessing when they had those, but there were always caveats like were the ins and outs and the bugs in getting it to work right. So
Yeah.
cool. Any other questions, even from the YouTube viewers? I know we've got 12 people watching on YouTube, but
Well, that puts us over 30.
yeah. So
If you count you and me.
we like to air these things in
We're
terrible.
popular. We have 30 people
We
watching,
have friends.
including us. So I heard a funny story over the weekend. I was in Cleveland, outside of Cleveland, at a train show for the train shop Ormondy's. And
Yeah.
if anyone is in the Cleveland area, Ormondy's is a great place to go for some Marklin stuff. And let me just start this story by asking you a question, Curtis.
All
How
right.
many times have you heard a story about how somebody doesn't have their train anymore? All the stories.
Yeah, anybody we run into.
Yes, somebody we're always hearing about how they got their train. We've heard, what we think is all the stories of how they got into their train. And we think we hear all the stories about how they don't have their train anymore. My mom sold it at a garage sale for $5 when I went to college. Gave it to, my brother or my nephew or, something like that. I heard one that I had never heard before. And I specifically didn't tell you this because I wanted to do it here. It is from an outsider's point of view,
Lay it
hilarious.
on me.
So, as the gentleman tells it, um, he had some younger sons, I think around 8 and 10, somewhere around there. And he had an N-gauge layout in his basement, and it was a kind of, from what I hear, like a long, narrow one, like, 30, 35 feet long and narrow. And I don't know how finished it was, but it did have structures and some scenery on it, at least. And so, from what I recall, he hears a commotion down in the basement and goes down there to find his sons playing what he said was G.I. Joe. And what one was doing is he had a hammer and he was smashing buildings and cars. I don't know if he smashed any locomotives
Oh
and
man.
leaving these like craters
Yeah.
in it like they had just been bombed.
Uh, oh boy.
And he said one of them's there smashing this stuff and the other one's behind them, the younger one's behind him going, and so that's how he lost his N-gauge layout. And I don't know what really happened to the children. I hear they're grown now, but
That's a heck of a story, though.
that is one that I have never heard before. I was laughing and teasing the guy so much over this. I feel bad, but it's a
That's a
hilarious
brutal.
story, and he
Yeah, I
laughs
remember
about it
those.
now. But
Those GI Joes are probably about the right.
yeah, and he was looking for some pictures. He said, yeah, we took pictures, and he's been looking for them, and he can't find them. So hopefully, at a future webinar, I'll have copies of the pictures. I would love to see this. I'm just dying to see this.
Hopefully he finds them. That'd be great. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's a great story from the outside.
Yeah. Cool. All right. All right. I guess we're coming up to close to where we actually. I do not have much to show other than the Christmas car.
Yeah, I don't either. I have the Christmas card too,
Right
and
there.
I'm sure. Do you have yours handy? Yeah, I have a Christmas car. We both got our Christmas. They were
This is
actually in
yours.
early this year, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised it kind of came through.
And along that lines, there's also the startup Christmas car, which I'm not gonna start getting the startup Christmas cars. And Z-Gauge, the Z-Gauge Christmas car, which is kind of a purplish this year.
Is that? It looks like that startup Christmas car's too. Is it too tall to run under catenary?
Probably it's got the cardboard cutout on the top,
Yeah.
and
They always do that once in a while. It's like,
it's got the record. You can record the voice, your own voice
oh, does
on
it
it.
really?
It's like the Halloween one, except Christmas, excuse me.
Well,
And
they also had they also had the Warner Brothers, the Bugs Bunny one that you
yeah,
did.
they started that with the Bugs Bunny one.
Yeah.
There's also for the LGB people the
Oh, LGB Halloween car.
yeah, and it's really kind of nice. It really came out nice. I like it.
And internal lighting.
No, no, but there's a lighting kit you can get for these and light it, and then you
Yeah,
can do whatever you want with the bulb.
got to find the black light bulb there.
And there's also the LGB Christmas car that's in. So get them now before they're gone. These things go so fast, and Halloween is right around the corner. So the Halloween car should be ordered pretty soon. We also just got the startup Christmas set. Okay. And this is really kind of neat because it comes with a nice little steam locomotive and a couple of Christmas cars, which you can only get in this set. It really
So
looks
used
pretty
to
good.
seeing that box in the Z gauge, but that's HO, right?
That's HO. Yeah, it really looks pretty good, I think, for an HO Christmas set. And the thing about this is it comes with the white C-track. And it's a very slight gray, I would say, but
I guess it's this winter snow track, is what
it
it is.
is. It is. It's a winter track. So this should be a good seller. And there's also an extension set in this C-track. So this should be kind of fun starting to see these around, a tabletop Christmas tree or even the full live tree, so to say. That'll be a fun little addition. Other things that we have here in the warehouse that are available to order. We still have the Germany World Cup locomotive.
Mm.
And for you Marklin purists, it is made in Germany. All right. And we have the winner of the World Cup locomotive now, which was not available at our last webinar, and it is again made in Germany.
The winner is that Spain?
Spain won. Spain
Okay.
won the World Cup this year. For those of you that are soccer fans. Last but not least, we came across a bunch of these are a couple years old, but these are the Albatross. We have several of these Albatross, and this was
Oh,
a
there's still
really
Albatrosses?
yeah,
Those are really nice looking locomotives.
they are really nice locomotives. I really like mine. I made sure I got one right away.
Yeah.
In this blue and red paint scheme. It's beautiful. So these are all of these are available to order from your dealers. So go ahead and
That's got the white roof on it, right? The Albatross.
yes, it does. On the cab, it's got the white roof.
That's what makes it unique. That's
Yeah,
another thing that makes it
it's a
nice.
beautiful locomotive. That's about all I have from the warehouse today. and
Good. We
hopefully,
got some appreciation. It's a good thing that you showed the LGB cars. That's cool.
yeah, yeah, and that, man, I really like. I'm tempted to start getting these. I really like the Halloween one because it.
Man,
Let me take this out of the
you're just
box
biting into it.
because
Uh,
I know it's terrible. I shouldn't go in the
you just want
warehouse.
to show the real estate picture too while you're at it.
No, I'm not. I don't want people to know where I
I
live.
was thinking about that, but man, I do not want to start collecting a bunch of LGB
I
cars.
know, but look at that color. It's kind of a dark gray with a black roof and then the graphics on it.
Yeah.
The graphics are the same on both sides.
Well, it's nice that they did some color graphics because the HO ones are really just kind of black shading, right? So
Yeah, they have on the HO ones, they put the
glow in the dark paint.
phosphorescent
Yeah.
paint on these. I don't think these glow in the dark.
Yeah.
No, they don't look like they do. But
For Christmas cars, those are awesome. I mean, Halloween cars, those are awesome.
yeah, I know. Hopefully they continue with this because I was really impressed with it. It's got the black frame, so it's a black floor in there with tan tan seats. If you can see them
Okay.
there, really
You
kind of
need to
neat.
get they need to get the figures that are just done in clear plastic. And
Oh,
that
that'd be
makes a
really
great
cool.
ghost, like smoked or something. Makes a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
ghost
yeah, and
effect.
you could light them from underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, good plan. I'll tell Germany because they listen to us.
Yeah, right. Who do you does it, you got to check to make sure Google translates it correctly. Otherwise, let's just go. What is he talking about?
We know several people at the factory, and we give them a hard time, and they give us a hard time. So it's all good. Goes back and forth.
uh, Shoot. Are we coming up soon for the release of the AC-44?
The Pennsylvania should be. I don't know when that's going to be released. Yeah, eight.
Or the northern? What is it?
No, those are
Well,
not
the BNSF isn't going to be due soon, but there's the other one that was done, right? Norfolk
the
Southern.
the next one out is the Pennsylvania paint scheme, the Norfolk and Southern. They're doing their heritage line. It's the that's the paint scheme that's next.
Yeah.
It's it
Those
was
are
in the new
for
items
Rick's right
brochure
shoulder, by the way.
for the I think summer new items.
Yeah.
Um,
It just sounded like we are going to get one that's released soon, before the end of the year. I wasn't sure.
I'd have to look at the catalog. It should be 38444, I think. Or
Cool.
443. Probably 443.
All right.
Nope, not three.
Well, it comes when it comes. We always have there's their products that we have a special stake
Nope.
in. So,
445 is the Pennsylvania. 38445 is the number. It's on the website. Here I can show it. Come on. Here we go. Share.
that's Pensy.
Yeah. So there it is. Looks good.
Add that collection with the F7s and the AC-44s and your big boys.
Yeah. 844 and the Challengers and yeah.
Challenger. So
Yeah. That's gonna be the next purchase for me besides the Insiders that I ordered.
yep,
Stop.
you're there. Well, I think that pretty much we're getting to a close here. It's
Yeah, unless somebody has any questions or comments or funny stories. Funny stories are always
yeah,
good.
well, last minute. You guys can get in your words if you want.
Boom! Yay! Oh
Somebody
my.
can raise a hand or ask a question, but got nothing on YouTube. Other one, we got some viewers here, so that's cool. Anyways, it was good talking to you guys, or good talking at you guys,
Yeah.
technically.
Well, yeah, if anyone has any questions or wants to talk, you can raise your hand and we can let you talk.
But I think we had some good questions earlier on.
Yeah.
The information I thought was pretty good. Nice to hear about the different decoder types.
Yeah.
Their uses. We're here to answer any questions, but other than that, I think we're about done. We're going to close it off here.
Yeah.
Right. So good deal. We will be here. We'll be back again in a couple months, and see what the articles draw.
Yeah. And I guess it would be let's see, December 11th in
Yes.
theory. Normally the webinars are the second Wednesday of the month. Occasionally they do change depending on if there's a train show that conflicts that.
Yep. All right. Well, good to see you all, and we will. I think we're going to sign off here. It's an hour and a half, so
Sounds
we
good.
will talk to you again in a couple months.